Hello viewers, my name is Nothando Mdleja from Joe Gabi District and welcome to the Eastern Cape Department of Education broadcast studio. In today's lesson, we'll be looking at the topic of finance and the subtopic will be inflation. This is one of the topics that was highlighted in our diagnostic report as to be posing a challenge to be our learners with regards to the explanations of the trend, the interpretation of the graphs, as well as working with the backward calculations whereby learners are expected to calculate the old price when they are given a current price. The possible questions on this topic of inflation will include the following as we see in our screen. And these are the issues that were raised in the diagnostic report. We will be dealing with definitions, we'll be dealing with describing or explaining the trend, we'll be dealing with calculations of the inflation rate, and we'll also be looking at the calculation of either the new price or the old price. Now let us go straight to the definitions in this topic will be two. Normally, it's the inflation, where we say inflation refers to the general change in the price of goods and services over a period of time. And the second definition will be of the inflation rate, where we are saying it's the percentage change in the price of goods and services over a period of time. We know that prices keeps on changing from one year to the next, and that is happening due to what we call inflation. And in order to know how much the price have increased or decreased in some instances, we use what we call an inflation rate. So in short, inflation rate is a percentage that is used in order to calculate how much the prices are increasing or how much the prices are decreasing. But as a grade 12 learner, you need to be careful. When we deal with definitions, there's a question that will want a general definition, and then there will be a question that wants you to define in the context of the question. What does it mean when it wants the definition in the context? It means that you need to define with regards to what the question is talking about. For an example, you are dealing with a question that is talking about the sale of cars. So now when you define the inflation, you won't say it's the change in the price of goods and services, but you'll be specific and say that it's the change in the prices of cars over that period of time that your question is talking about. Same thing as when you define the inflation rate again, if you define in the context, you include whatever your question will be talking about. So that's what is important. And again, when you do your definition, there are keywords that are important. The change is important. The period, the overtime is important as you are defining on that one. Now, the next subtopic that I said, it's a possible question. Under this topic, I mentioned the describing of the trend or the explaining of the trend. It depends how the question is phrased on your question paper. So when you describe a trend, you are simply describing in words the change that you see either on a graph or on the table. And the change could be talking to inflation rate, or the change could be talking to the prices. So now you check what your question is talking about. For an example, let us look at this graph that is displayed in front of us. The graph here is talking about the inflation rate. The graph that is here is talking about the average inflation rate in South Africa for a period from 2020 up to 2025. So we can see that from this graph, we have different percentages, meaning that the prices are increasing, but increasing at different rates. Now, the question might come, one question might come and say, what is happening to the, might say, maybe they will say, describe the trend on the inflation rate between 2020 and 2025. So when you describe a trend in with regards to the inflation rate, remember the graph is talking of the inflation rate. So when you are just looking at the inflation rate, you simply say from the year 2020, you will indicate that from this particular year, which is 2020, to this year, that is 2022, as we see from the graph, we can see that there is an increase. the percentages are increasing between 2020 up to 2022. The inflation rate there is increasing. But now when we are looking at the period from 2022 to 2025, the period from 2022 now to 2025, we can see that the inflation rate now is starting to decrease. So now in 2022, it's increased with a higher percentage when compared to other years. So be careful of that one. So let me just summarize on that one. When we describe the trend, you need to explain what is happening and also give the time frame. When is that happening? And again, when you explain in terms of inflation rate and the graph is talking of the inflation rate, you simply explain what you see in the graph, what is happening in the graph. But now when you are given the graph of the inflation rate and the question is asking you about prices, now it means you need to explain in terms of the prices, that as long as the percentages are positive, it means there is an increase. Now let's move along. I want us to rush to when we have to do the examples and calculations. So the next possible question, I mentioned that it could be the calculations of the inflation rate. Now I need to give you a hint on that one. Once it says inflation rate, they are not looking at the price. They're not wanting a price from you. They want you to determine the percentage. So now let us be looking at our formula here. The formula used to determine the inflation rate will be inflation rate is equal to new price minus the old price divided by old price, then you multiply by 100. Let me mention that this percent that I've written here is not used for calculation purposes, but that is just the unit of calculation. So when we say multiply by 100%, that is just a unit. It's a symbol, the unit for percentage. So now when you do the calculation, you can get either a positive answer, a negative answer, or a zero. When will you get a positive answer? You will get a positive answer when there was an increase in the prices, meaning that now the new price, meaning the new price is higher. When the new price is bigger, we'll get a positive answer. But now when the new price is less than the old price, now we'll find ourselves getting a negative answer. But now when the price did not change, meaning the old price and the new price, they were the same, that is when now we will get a zero. And again, this formula can not only be used to calculate the inflation rate. Any question you come across that wants you to calculate the percentage change, you can simply use this formula. As long as you take the new one, you subtract the old one, you divide by the old one, you multiply by 100. And again, it may happen that in your question, you will be provided with the formula. In some questions, you will not be provided with this formula. So it means you need to know this formula by head. And again, they may not use the terms exactly as I've shown. They may use current price instead of new price. They might use original price instead of old price, but the formula remains the same. It's just that they chose to write it using different words. Let's move right along to the last part of calculations before we go to actual examples now. Now, I also mentioned that the diagnostic report is picking up that learners are struggling with calculation, the reverse calculations, because in most cases, when you find questions relating to inflation, they will be wanting a learner to calculate the old price, maybe two. There are different methods that we use to do the calculations. Either use the method of writing as a rate before doing the actual calculation. So now when you are writing down, answering the question, It's always important to check whether you know the old price or you do not know it. And always your old price will be, always your old price will be 100%, always. Then the new price, as I've mentioned, it is affected by the inflation rate. So to get the rate of a new price, you say 100% plus the inflation rate. So I think let us go to examples now so that we can further understand. Let us go to activities now. This is our first question. Number one, as of December 4, 2024, the price of petrol in South Africa was 21 rands 15 cents per liter for unleaded 93. And in January 1st, 2025, the price of petrol in South Africa is around 21 rands 34 cents per liter. Now the question says, determine the inflation rate. You need to check the context, the question, what's the question is asking or expecting from you. So this particular question wants you to determine the inflation rate. Remember, we said the formula to calculate the inflation rate is new price minus old price divided by the old price and multiply everything by 100. Remember, that percent is just a unit of measure. So let us quickly answer this question. In this case, we can see there is year 2025 and then there's also year 2024. So the new one will be the price of 2025, which is 21 rands and 34 cents minus our old price will be 21 rands and 15 cents. Then the formula says we should divide everything by the old price, and our old price is 21 rands and 15 cents, and then we multiply everything by our 100. So when we feed this to our calculator, the numerator part will give us 0.19, meaning the difference there. The denominator comes back as it is. Remember, we should multiply this whole thing by 100 and the answer that we get. Now we have different units in this question of ours. We have rands and percentage. You can see the rands will cancel one another, meaning the units that we are left with is that percentage. So now our answer will be 0.9%. It means now the inflation rate between these two time frames given was just 0.9. And we can see that we are getting a positive answer. Why are we getting the positive answer? It's because now the new price was bigger than the old price. So it means whenever you do your calculation and then your new price is bigger, but at the end you get a negative answer, it means you made a mistake somewhere, so it means you need to go back and rectify that mistake. We have seen example number one, activity number one. Now let us check our second question. That will be talking to something different from this one. I'm sorry, on that one. So let us go to activity number two. Now it's a different story. We are no longer calculating the inflation rate. Now the statement says the inflation rate in America for 2022 was 7% and 1.4 for 2021. We are given 2 years here. Let me underline these 2 years. We have a 2022, and then I'll use another color for 2021. Why am I doing this? You need to be able to identify the old year and the new one. We know that in reality, both are old, but in the context of the question, you need to check that. So we are also told that the vehicle in 2022 was costing $32,332. Then it is stated that the price of the Ford F-Series in 2022 was more than 29,800. Verify, showing all calculations whether the statement is valid. In these type of questions, our learners seem to struggle. Some will say that they do not know what they're expected to do. So now let us go back to our scenario. Over there, you are given the inflation rate, the time period. You are also given the price of 2022. Now, they are giving you a statement. They are saying in 2020, the price was more than that. Now they say verify. So it means you need to go back and calculate how much was a price of a vehicle in 2020 before you can give the conclusion. So I would say when you answer such questions, you start by writing what you have. You note down what you have. So we are going to be doing that here on the site. We are simply going to quickly do that on the site. Let us have our question right here. And then what is it that we are given? We are given the price of 2022. The price of 2022 is how many dollars? Let me change our lead. Yes, the price that we given to for 2022. Let me check quickly. The price is 32,332. Then this one is in dollars. Let us write it in a ratio form and say, okay, I wonder what. Okay, this one is the price for 2022, and then we are told this one will be our new price. Since we are asked about 2020, it means we are interested in the old price because we already have the new price. So, or let me rather not use the ratio for now. Let me rather say, write it like this. This one will be the old price, new price, and then we do not know our old price. But note this, grade 12, that when you are given the price of 2022, you cannot jump straight to 2020. You need to first identify the price for 2021 before getting to the final price of 2020. So this is a reverse calculation that we are supposed to do. So let us now do our calculation very quickly. Now we'll have, let me just read, okay, we'll have our old price being $32,000, 332 is to remember it's new. We said it's affected by the inflation rate. It will be plus 7%. We want the old one. The old one, we said it is always 100, whether we know it or we do not. Let me call it X in this case. And then let's do the calculation using this simple method. We would say $32,000, 332 times. Then let us use this method instead. What do we write in our numerator? We write the percentage of what we are looking for. We are looking for the old price. Then at the denominator, we write the percentage of what we have. We have the new price now. 100 plus 7 will give us 107%. Then when we do that calculation, we'll get the answer being $30, 216,082. So this price is for 2021. So we are not done because our interest is on 2020. So it means we now need to take the price of 2021 and say $30,216.82 times. Remember, we said at the numerator, you write the price of what you're looking for. You're looking for 2020. 2020 is old, so old is always represented by 100. We are told that the percentage for 2021 is 1,4, so it means now we're going to have 101,4. Then when we do the calculation, we'll find our answer being 29,799,63 Now, let us check. What was the question saying? The question was asking, was saying it was more than. So now we are comparing our answer. We have an answer that is less than what the question states. So it simply means that the statement was just invalid. So that is how you answer that question. You need to know, check the given information, which one is new, which one is old. You also do now your calculation as per that one. So let's move right along to the next example that we have. That we move on to the next example that we have. This one is taken from a previous question paper that was written here in the Eastern Cape in September 2021, where there was a graph. Remember, we said there will be a graph where you need to explain the trend. Now we are faced with that kind of a question in front of us. We are given the inflation rates graph. I will just go through the questions very quickly. The first question wants us to explain why it is referred to the average inflation rate. The second question wants us to briefly explain the changes in the inflation rate and the impact it had on the prices of goods from 2016 to 2019. And then we'll have the last one that wants us to do the reverse calculation and also a forward calculation. So first question, why is it referred as to the average inflation rate? We refer it to as the average inflation rate because now it's looking at the change that is happening to different prices. That's why it's called an average, because in a year there are different items that are affected by the inflation. So that's why this one is referred to as the average. I'm more interested in number 2, which says we need to explain what is happening there. So as we can see over there, from year 2016 to year 2019, from these years, 2016 and 2019, we can see that from 2016 to 2017, the inflation rate over there is decreasing. But that does not mean the prices are also decreasing. The prices are increasing, but at a less value as compared to the other year. And from 2017 to 2019, the prices are increasing at a higher rate because the rates are also increasing. And then let us look at how the question was answered in our marking guideline, because I'm interested in the mark allocation. As you can see that the first mark. We are out of time. Okay. We need you to summarize and then close. Okay. We are at 25 minutes now. Okay, no problem. We have. Okay, okay, then go there. Okay. Okay, so in summary, we looked at the definitions of inflation rates, whereby there are two definitions involved, the inflation and inflation rates. We look at the issue of describing the trend, whereby we explain what is happening in the graph to the prices or to the inflation rate itself. Then we said we need to be able to interpret the graph correctly. We also went on to the calculations of the inflation rate, where we said when we want to calculate the inflation rate, we need to have two prices, the old price and the new price. We need to follow the formula correctly, multiply by 100 and get an answer. So it is okay to get a negative answer because it means there would have been a decrease. We always have a challenge when it comes to that one. When learners see that the answer is negative, they want to change it to become positive. You need to be careful on that one. And the last part was of the doing of the calculation. We said you need to note that always the old price will be 100%, whether you know it or you do not know it. And then now the new price will be affected by the inflation rate, meaning the rate of the new price will be 100 plus the inflation rate, whether you know it or you do not know it. There are different methods. And then on the method that we have used in this particular lesson, you need to make sure that on the numerator, you put the percentage of what you want. And in the denominator, you put the percentage or the rate of what you have. Then you will have a final answer that will either be increase or decrease depending on the percentage that you were dealing with. So please practice those questions and make sure that when you are doing the reverse calculation where there are 2 years involved, you do not jump straight. You go each year after the other, like we did 2022, 2021, and then 2020 that the question was targeting at. Then I can leave you this particular exercise to be specific, whereby all these things we have touched at were involved, whereby you use this table and then you answer that particular question. We have come to the end of our lesson. You can leave your questions and comments. Don't forget to leave the name of your school so that we give shout outs, and please share and recommend and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching and see you next time.